Hello, my name is Jennifer and welcome to another Sims 4 news video. This is about the surprise game update we got today, March 15th, which primarily added another stage to the neighborhood story system. It also brought back some old limited time scenarios that are now permanent, and in general we have 7 in total, and it did some bug fixes. The fixes that were made were not for My Wedding Stories, other than a couple of small minor ones. That is supposed to be coming in the next game update, per the My Wedding Stories laundry list. There is obviously an impact on some mods, but the full impact isn't known yet. So if you're a mod user and don't want to go without your mods, I recommend going offline with Origin so that you don't have to update your game until you know more. That's what I've done. I also have a full video on how to prepare for a game update, which I will link here or at the end, and definitely in the description down below. So first off, as I said, we got an update to the neighborhood story system. So the first major addition is life changes for all neighbor Sims, even if they don't have relationships to the active household. So from my reading of the blog post, which I will link everything down below, it's very customizable. So some of the changes that they've added per the post is that neighbor Sims everywhere may now adopt young Sims into their households aged between infant and toddler. They can become pregnant with their significant other and eventually deliver. Family-oriented Sims are more likely to do this, while non-committal Sims are less likely. If a Sim or their significant other hates children, they will never do this. Some Sims may instead adopt a cat or dog or cat as they have on their thing, but that requires the cats and dogs pack. They may join and leave careers, and Sims traits heavily influence these decisions, and elder Sims may decide to retire. I'm a little bit leery about that one, because even as it is when they call about, doing a career, they often take these useless, as far as I'm concerned, part-time careers, and they've left their proper careers, which just is bad all around for most Sims. I mean, it might make sense for some, but in general, it's kind of a bad, I don't like that, to be quite honest. But anyways, enough of that point. Households can now move into and out of lots, and they can also die in different kinds of accidents, depending on risk factors such as age, traits, and career. Now, they commented that all these life changes let neighbor Sims have richer, fuller lives that evolve over time. They grow up in a family, get jobs, move around, raise children, and eventually die, possibly before their time. And then they say some of these changes are obviously more significant than others. Cough, death, cough. This brings us back to the second major addition to neighborhood stories. So a major part of it is that we have the ability to configure neighborhood stories, and you can get to that from the Manage Households panel. So you can set it per My Households, which are obviously the Sims that are your own Sims, or from other households. And not only that, as we go further down, you can drill down and you can set it per household. So there are a whole bunch of different things, which I show up here on the screen, that you can select or deselect so that they will either impact them or not impact them. And obviously the Manage Households panel is from the world map, which I have the screenshot they shared in the blog to show you where that is. So, and as I had commented, there's independent configurations for My Households versus other households, but also you can drill down for a household and set it up for that household individually. So it's very customizable, assuming it works. I have, as I said, not updated my game yet. By default, Neighborhood Stories is enabled for other households, and it's disabled for My Households. And there, from what I've heard, and if we scroll down, as I said, there's you can go in the little icon there to configure specifically for a household, and then that would be what takes priority over versus what is over top of it. But there is also a global enable disable setting. So if life changes happening all over the world are just not your thing, that's okay. Neighborhood Stories can be entirely disabled under game options using the Reset Custom Configurations button. However, neighbor Sims friends will still occasionally call asking for advice about life changes unless your Sim's phone is on silent, which I don't mind. I don't mind the phone calls because then I can say yes or no on an individual basis. I like that sort of element of control. And I think I will probably use this in some saves, but just not all of them. So like other game options, neighborhood story configurations exist on a per save basis. Because each of your saves has its own settings, you can switch back and forth between them without having to reconfigure everything. Just load up and let the stories roll. So essentially, if you set it up in one save and then you go to the next save, you have to set it up again, which I have a lot of saves, so that might be a lot of work, which is probably why I'll just do the global disable in most of my saves, because I don't feel like going through and setting it up for all the many saves that I have, but I'll use it in a few of them. But if you make a change in one, it won't carry over into another, which may be good, but may not be so good if you have a lot of saves like I'm saying I do. But I think overall it's better that it doesn't, and you don't have to set up every time you go into a save. So if you want to know what your neighbor Sims are up to, you can go check your mailbox, and it will have the option to check neighborhood or recent neighborhood stories, and then you'll get information coming up so that you can see what's happening overall, and obviously you can go visit your neighbors if you want to see them in person. So that is kind of the overview of the neighborhood stories. Now, the other thing that I mentioned that we got is the new scenarios that are now available with existing household support in select scenarios, but not all scenarios, but in some scenarios. So, which I hadn't actually noticed that till I'm reading that right now. So with today's base game update, they've added 7 new scenarios to The Sims 4. So the Too Many Toddlers is back, but it's been updated, and it says you aim to get the Happy Toddler reward trait for this gaggle of whiz kids in the making. I honestly kept going until I got the top-notch toddler when I did it, but obviously completed it with the Too Many, i.e. at the Happy Toddler reward trait. So then there's a Troublemaker, the Kids a Menace, choose a path of villainy or surprise them with a redemption arc. Rom-com, is this relationship a joke? Only you can write the punchline. Super Rich, Super Villain, making a fortune is great, but you know what's even better? Stealing one. Extraterrestrial researcher, this sim wants to believe. Bring the truth from out there to your own home. I'm a little bit curious about that because aliens only come with get to work. So I'm curious how that one works if you don't have get to work. Unlucky. Luck has nothing to do with how fire this chef is. So that's interesting. And no skills, no problem. Who said Sims need to be skilled to make it in life? Time to prove you're street smart. So those are those. So the main one that's really come back is the Too Many Toddlers, and all the rest seem like they are new ones that I have not seen before. And in addition to these scenarios, we've updated the feature to add existing household support to select scenarios. So I don't know which ones are because, as I said, I've not updated my game yet. And then it says you'll also notice several tweaks and improvements to various aspects of the feature. So if you have updated your game, I'm curious to hear what you think of this update to the scenarios or even the new neighborhood stories in a comment down below. So moving on to the bug fixes. So for Sims 4 itself, you can now select wedding venues for base game weddings, which you couldn't before. And there were mods to fix it, but obviously any mods that have to do with like that will be obsolete. If a new scenario is available, you will now get a notification after logging into the game. Opening and closing the scenarios interface in live mode comes with a proper animation now. And just in general, there seems to be a bunch of fixes that had to do with scenarios, really. Then there was a hairstyle that you couldn't see if you had the feminine fashion choice filter. I've had that issue and it's supposed to be fixed. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of fixes to do with scenarios. Calling off an engagement will count towards the villainous Valentine aspiration. So that has to do with kind of the neighborhood stories because that was one of the first things we got. And then they made some updates to the friendly calls from other Sims that your Sims receive. Your Sim will no longer be called by a neighbor Sim asking about becoming friends with another active household Sim your neighbor has never met before. Okay. It will be much clearer for friendly relationship calls now whether the Sims get together is of a platonic, or romantic nature. And NPC Sims will also have sufficient confidence now and will no longer call your Sims asking for permission to be friends with their own spouse. I don't think I've ever noticed that, but that's pretty funny. Okay, so then there were some individual updates, bug fixes for packs. In that case, kind of minor. So seasons, your Sims who were right on time to activity meetings no longer are chastised for being late. I just thought my Sims were always late because they're always getting that flashing thing, even though it's right, like, you know, it's just started. Get famous. This would be good. Uninvited Sims no longer walk into your Sim's house to catch up after your Sim's fame increases. That's a good one. I'm not really a fan of them coming in because a lot of my Sims are famous. Cottage living. Some Simmers reported that cows and llamas are getting stuck in their inventory after the Finchwick Fair had ended. They've clarified how to return your animals to their sheds in the fair end notification. And there's a small one for Spa Day, Strangerville, My Wedding Stories. That's the most probably. There are a couple of fixes here, but I'm not sure. Someone said that the Sims didn't show up in appropriate attire for the wedding ceremony, so I'm not really sure if that's fixed. If you've tried a wedding since the update, let me know if that works. And then it says vow renewal is now only available to married Sims and wedding ceremony is only available to engaged Sims, which is how it was supposed to be. I had noticed that I had all the options even when I didn't have the applicable couples available. And then there was something, ceremony interactions are now available when doing a vow renewal or reception at another Sim's house. I've not tried a vow renewal yet. I was working only on the weddings, to be honest. So, and then there is a romantic garden stuff pack with respect to Ghost Sims, and then some Bust the Dust kit fixes. So that was it. So with respect to the broken and updated mods, there haven't been a lot of updates yet. I'm mostly seeing broken ones, which I have shown on the screen, but by the time this video goes live, it could be out of date with respect to what's broken and what's been fixed. So I recommend you go check out the link to the forums post to see what's current at the time that you're watching this. But I did see that for the mod updates that particularly the Wonderful Whims by Turbo has been updated. One that's not been updated yet, which I know is a really popular one, is UI Cheats extension, but hopefully by the time this comes out, it's updated too. And I have not heard anything about MCCC at the time of recording this video. And of course, you know, we kind of wonder, since MCCC is the mod that we use for story progression, or most people use for story progression, how it's going to be impacted by this, which essentially Neighborhood Stories is story progression. So, but that is just sort of an overview of, you know, the new things that came, what was fixed, and a brief look at the mod impact, which isn't really known at the time that I'm doing this recording. So if you're having problems after the update, check out my How to Prepare for a Game Update video. It has a lot of details, but the first thing is, if you do use mods and custom content, I do recommend move that out of your game. And also repair your game after the update. I've seen a few people who've had problems who don't even use mods, and they've had problems with issues, and a repair has helped. So that's definitely something I recommend. And deleting your local thumb cache file can always help too. Let me know if you have done the update, and if you've done all those things and you're still having any issues, or what you think about the new additions to the game in a comment down below. But that's going to be it for this video. Likes and comments are always appreciated, and they really help with the algorithms. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!